our weeknight and weekday Bible study. Meets on Wednesdays at 11 and then Thursday nights at 7, and we tackle a chapter or two of Scripture. We've been at it for more than a year now. We made our way all the way through the Gospel of Luke. We're in Acts now. We'll finish that up by Easter, and we'll take on 1 Corinthians in the Easter season. So do hop in at any time. But over and over, as we look at Jesus in the Gospels and the early church, we can't but help look at, especially like Luke's Gospel and Acts, and the amazing evangelism of the early church, of Jesus and his community and the church in the generation after him. And it's hard to, it's very easy to see the instant application for our divided world. Over and over, we in the Bible study keep bringing our division to the table, to the Bible, to Scripture. We have conversations, political, social, racial, religious, that we don't feel equipped to handle. We look at the larger conversations in our media, in our country, and in our world, from the environment to race, to sex, to gender, sexual orientation, so social, political, economic. And we don't know how to navigate these awkward conversations, these difficult conversations with family members, with friends, negotiating the doom scroll that we all wake up to every morning. War, violence, terror, and just the awkward social interactions of knowing that someone is going to think you massively stupid for having the beliefs that you might have. Conservative or liberal, progressive. We all wonder what we're supposed to say and do and how to act. And a number of folks in the Bible study, especially me, and I keep bringing this up, is struggling with the fact that others don't seem to be as twisted up about their beliefs as we are, as I am. And so that creates a weird imbalance. Because then the conversation in the media and in the world is full of people who are incredibly sure of themselves. Everyone who has doubts, everyone who struggles, everyone who wonders if they're qualified, everyone who has questions, anyone who believes in nuance is very quiet. Which leaves the conversation, Christianity, the church, society, the environment, issues of race, sex, and gender, to the loudest voices. And indeed, the loudest voices come for the man born blind in today's gospel. Even the disciples instantly jump to the theology of this man's illness. Rabbi, he's blind from birth. Who sinned? So we can avoid it. Did he mess up? Or did his parents mess up? Because remember, they thought that disability or tragedy of any kind was divinely ordained. Somewhere along the way, screwed up. That's why we have this condition. Who screwed up? So we can be the people who don't screw up. So we can keep this man on one side of a social line and protect us, or protect ourselves. Instantly leap into theology and discussion. They talk about the blind man before talking to him. He's an example, a statistic, a problem. It's Jesus who spits on the ground, mixes the mud, and touches. And then instantly the man's miraculous healing is the subject of all kinds of discussion. It's a veritable trial. They drag him into the front of the Pharisees. They drag his poor parents. And his response is one that should give all of us confidence when entering or encountering these conversations that threaten to tear us apart. He's unafraid to tell them what he knows. You might not feel qualified. You might not feel enthusiastic about jumping into an online conversation or a conversation at the dinner table. God forbid, one of those really awkward conversations at Thanksgiving dinner. I remember the first time one of my grandparents and extended family decided to broach politics at Thanksgiving, there was a good 30 seconds of silence. As everyone wondered, okay, what do we do? Do we engage that? Do we agree? What do we do? And it was broken after 30 good seconds. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, everyone looking at each other for someone to go, can you pass the stuffing? And we just moved on. But he's unafraid to tell them what he knows. We balk at whether or not we're qualified. We balk at the idea of, could we convince this other person? And in between, successfully negating what someone else has said and complacently just letting it slide, the once blind man is willing to tell people, look, I don't know about all that. But what I do know is that I was born blind. I had this interaction with Jesus, and now I see. The parents are a little more circumspect, and sometimes wise as serpents, innocent as doves. They too rest in what they know. Look, we don't know who Jesus is, so don't lump us in or out. What we do know is that we love our Son. We've been with him since the beginning, and this is our Son. We don't know what happened between him being born blind to us, and him seeing now. But that is our Son, and we are witnesses to his healing. They do it out of fear. But there's a certain bravery in clinging to what you know. Amid all of the division, there is still what has happened to and for each one of you. You may not feel comfortable speaking to the grand theology of the day. You might not feel comfortable speaking to the sociology of the day. You may not feel qualified. You may not feel interested. And you might not see any prospect of success at convincing someone else of your point of view. But you can mention your point of view. Each and every one of us is here this morning because somehow, some way, Jesus intervened in our lives. Even if it was just, Jesus spoke to me through the music. These prayers give me sustenance. But I think that your relationship with God probably goes deeper. There were times when you were in darkness. When all you could see was your mistakes and your regrets. And then somebody gave you a second chance. Your life was one way. And then somebody special, a spouse, a child, a friend, came along and life was different after that. Maybe it was addiction. Maybe it was an illness. Once upon a time, life was one way, and then life turned around. And you locate God in that turn. Whenever we approach difficult social issues, we should bring it with that in mind. This is what motivates me. This is what lit me up. And I may not know a lot, and you can contribute all you like on the subject that you may or may not know what so much about. But don't hesitate to bring up the stuff you do know. That's what the world needs. I don't know the geopolitical things. I got a degree in government, but that doesn't prepare you for the weighty decisions that civil servants are making all the time. I don't know what's right, but I do know what's wrong and what shocks the conscience. And there's only so far I can go with you, you might say to someone else. And you might say that, I don't know the right way to administer social programs, but I do know that somewhere along the way, someone helped me out and life was different. And I want that to happen for other people. We leave too many conversations to those who have a lot to say about everything. We leave it to the loudest voices, the angriest voices. We leave it to people who don't have any doubts. We must bring those experiences that we have, stand confidently in them, and defend the joy and peace and love and justice of Jesus Christ. If only to ourselves. The blind man is willing to stand as confidently as he can amid all of the discussions swirling around him to confess the one thing he does know, that life was one way and then it was another, and the cause of that was Jesus. If we do not share that gift, share those stories, then we're hoarding it from a world and from conversations that really need it. In Lent, we're called to examine our consciences. And this is on one hand an examination of sin. To look back and go, where have I gone wrong? Where has my stubbornness and my selfishness gotten in the way? Where has my pride and my greed taken over and caused me to use other people for my own ends? Where have I selfishly hidden from my own gain? Where have I been complacent and apathetic and asked for the stuffing to be passed when maybe I should have said something? But this is also the fourth Sunday in Lent, Laetare Sunday, rejoice, where we take a moment amid our penitence to rejoice, to reconnect with those moments that made a difference to us, and share them. As you examine your consciousness for your sin and regret, look for those moments where life was different, where you were lifted out and past what held you down and held you back. And share that with someone. Share it with a world in need. It's too precious to be hoarded. Stand in conversation, in real life and online, preferably in real life. And tell them the one thing you do know.